Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me?
Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody. Glad you guys are back for another video. Tonight, whatever, we're talking playoffs. Week 18 playoffs, kind of the scenarios that are supposed to happen. Who you kind of want your team to root for or root against if you are one of the teams that is still in the playoff hunt. Take a look at the standings, kind of go through all the scenarios or most of the scenarios and kind of go from there of what we want or need to see happen depending on who you root for the next couple of weeks. Now, week 18, I think you can really solidify the East playoff picture. And we'll talk about it here in a second. The West is still very muddy. And again, when we look at these scenarios and kind of the things along those lines, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. That being said, let's go take a look at the standings really quick and gather what we can there before we talk about the scenarios. All right, so just like last week, standings are going to pop up here, and we have added, one new team to the playoff picture, the San Diego Strike Force. They are currently the number 2 seed in the West, so they cannot drop below 4th place. And then, as we've seen right here, Quad City, they have a huge game against Tulsa this upcoming weekend. They win that game, you pretty much solidify the Eastern Conference playoff picture. At least the teams seeding might be a little on the tedious side. We'll talk about it here in a second. For the Western side, you've got 3 teams vying for 2 spots. Like I said, Arizona, Vegas, and Northern Arizona all fighting for essentially 2 through 4. San Diego is as well. San Diego can get the 1 seed. Bay Area can get the 1 seed. We'll talk about it all here in a second. But as of right now, here is your playoff picture. It's really starting to take shape. You know, the clay is starting to get molded. I don't know what other euphemisms or idioms or whatever you want to use. But anyway, like I said, almost crystal clear in the East. A little muddy. You just take a little bit of a squeegee and you might be able to remove some of that dirt in the West. Let's go take a look at some scenarios and see what we have for the rest of the season. All right, so before we bring in the Eastern Conference playoff picture, I am lumping in this week and the final week, week 19, both in. You kind of have to work your way backwards a little bit in order to get kind of the full scope of what's going on here. Like I said, you can kind of solidify what is happening in this week, in week 18, but to tell the whole story, let's bring in that final week here. Let's bring in these scenarios. I'll show you what I mean. So as you can see here on the Eastern side, we'll start from the top and work our way to the bottom. Frisco can clinch a number 1 seed pretty much if they defeat Iowa in week 19 in any sort of fashion. If they defeat Iowa and Green Bay drops any of their final 2 games. Easy as that, because at that point in time, Frisco will be 13-3 if they defeat Iowa. And if Green Bay loses any game, whether it's Jacksonville or Sioux Falls, Frisco will take the Eastern number 1 seed. However, working our way down here, Green Bay can clinch the number 1 seed in any form or fashion if they win their final 2 games, or if they defeat Sioux Falls and they lose to Jacksonville or vice versa, and Iowa defeats Frisco. If Green Bay and Frisco are tied overall record-wise, Green Bay has the conference win percentage tiebreaker. So Green Bay, in order to be that number 1 seed, if Frisco beats Iowa, you need to win your final 2 games. And again, that game is week 19. Frisco defeating Iowa is week 19. So as of right now, for just week 18, so just this week, Green Bay has to defeat Jacksonville, and they will take back the number 1 seed momentarily. And then you kind of wait for the final week of the season to see who's going to be that 1 seed. So you see right here the kind of scenario is playing out. You see what I mean? You kind of have to work your way backwards in order to kind of go forward. Moving down, Massachusetts can clinch the 3 seed in the East if Tulsa defeats Quad City, or Massachusetts defeats Tulsa, or Jacksonville defeats Quad City in week 19. So kind of same thing, working your way back. If Tulsa defeats Quad City in any form or fashion in week 18, then Massachusetts is the 3 seed. Easy. However, if Quad City beats Tulsa, that gets a little confusing. Moving on down here, Quad City can clinch the number 3 seed if they defeat Tulsa, And then they need Tulsa to defeat Massachusetts while Quad City defeats Jacksonville. So like I said, if you're just working on week 18, it gets a little like, okay, well, yeah, Quad City beat Tulsa. Tulsa's out of the playoff race. And then it gets kind of muddy again. So just trying to throw all these scenarios out here and just kind of get this done in one fell swoop. There'll probably be another final week playoff race video like this, but kind of just covering our bases here. Quad City can clinch a playoff berth. That's probably the easiest thing this week if they just defeat Tulsa this weekend. Easy. Or, again, they can clinch a playoff berth if they defeat Jacksonville if they lose to Tulsa, or Massachusetts defeats Tulsa in any form or fashion. So it's kind of the same thing if they claim the 3 seed, it's just Massachusetts winning or losing against Tulsa. So there you go. Tulsa, they need a lot of help. They need things to break their way. They don't control their destiny whatsoever, except in this one game. If Tulsa can, actually they do, I guess, they do control their destiny and the fact that they can win their games, but they do need help. Tulsa can defeat Quad City this weekend, and in week 19, they need Tulsa to defeat Massachusetts, and Jacksonville has to beat Quad City. So that's a lot of winning Tulsa has to do, and they need help from the Sharks in that regard. So again, you can kind of see there is some more clarity here, still a little muddy. Still got 2 weeks left to play, so anything can really happen. But there's kind of your scenarios when it comes to the Eastern Conference. So if you're rooting for any one of these 5 teams, those are the scenarios you need to either clinch a seed, clinch a playoff berth, whatever you got to do to get into the playoffs, work your way from there. So that being said, let's go check out the West because it is way more muddy than this one. All right, for the Western Conference, before it pops up here, I don't have all the scenarios because there are way too many to still work out right now. Really, the only clarity for week 18 is if Bay Area wins, they are the number 1 seed. Other than that, you have Vegas and Northern Arizona playing each other. Neither of them can necessarily clinch a playoff berth. They get closer, but neither of them can clinch a playoff berth with a victory this upcoming weekend. So you see where the muddiness gets in. It's going to come down to the final week of the season to probably determine 2 playoff spots in the West. Let's bring in this graphic. There's only 3 teams on here because we have so many different scenarios. So we're going to break this up. Part 1 here for the West, part 2 in a second. Bay Area can clinch a number 1 seed if they defeat Duke City this weekend, or if they lose and get upset by Duke City, they beat San Diego in week 19. So all Bay Area has to do is win one of their final 2 games. They're in the number 1 seed in the West. On the flip side, the number 2 seed currently right now, San Diego, they can clinch a 1 seed in the opposite fashion. They need Duke City's help to beat Bay Area this weekend, and then they got to take care of Bay Area in order to clinch the number 1 seed. I think they'll have the same record, but I think San Diego wins it on conference win percentage. Do not quote me on that one. I think that's right though. But anyway, San Diego can clinch a number 2 seed if they defeat Bay Area in week 19. Easy as that. They go 11-5, I believe, and their conference win percentage is better than the other 3 teams below them. Especially if you beat Bay Area, that gives you another win in the Western Conference. I don't believe anyone can eclipse it. Or in week 18, Vegas defeats Northern Arizona, and then you need San Antonio to defeat Arizona, and then Tucson to defeat Vegas. So whoever wins the Vegas-Northern Arizona game in week 18, you need that team to get upset in week 19 to clinch the 2 seed. What I mean by that, you just see what I said there. Third scenario for the 2 seed at least, Northern Arizona defeats Vegas, and then Northern Arizona has to lose to Duke City, and it all hinges on Arizona losing to San Antonio. So it's not Arizona can clinch a 2 seed if they just win, but Arizona can do that. If you lose to Bay Area, I mean, it gets muddy. Arizona can clinch a playoff berth if they defeat San Antonio. So it's kind of a win and you're in situation. Or Tucson defeats Vegas, or Duke City beats Northern Arizona. Again, Vegas and Northern Arizona play. One of those teams is going to get a loss. Any other upset happens in week 19. That's a second loss for that team. If Arizona can win a game, and even if they lose, I think they might have a tiebreaker or win the tiebreaker on win percentage, or maybe the same record or have a better record. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back, but again, my brain's already frazzled from all of this. You see how confusing it can be. Arizona can clinch a number 2 seed if they beat San Antonio, Bay Area defeats San Diego, and Tucson and Duke City pull the upsets as well. So in other words, Arizona would be the only 11-5 team. Everyone else drops to 10-6. It can happen. And we'll talk about it with the other 2 teams after this, because anyone right now, as of right now, can clinch the number 2 seed if things break their way. And that's kind of what I want to focus on here as well. I know the seedings can go anywhere. One of these teams is going to be left out. So with that being said, I'm kind of focusing on what can your team do to clinch that 2 seed. What can you do to get the best possible record, or even, kind of do what you can in order to put yourself in the best position. Like I said, any one of these 5 teams can be the 2 seed. Now, that being said, only 2 teams can be the 1 seed, Bay Area or San Diego. So unfortunately, Arizona, Northern Arizona, and Vegas, they can only get as high as the number 2 seed. So that being said, let's go take a look at the final 2 teams, Northern Arizona and Vegas, and their scenarios when it comes to kind of their playoff positions. All right, so here we have our scenarios for Vegas and Northern Arizona. Again, a lot of things can happen. Vegas clinches a playoff berth if they defeat Northern Arizona, and in Week 19 they defeat Tucson. You win your final 2 games, pretty much in. Or Vegas defeats Tucson, or they defeat Northern Arizona, and then you need San Antonio to defeat Arizona, Duke City to pull an upset against Northern Arizona, things along those lines. Vegas can clinch a number 2 seed if they defeat Northern Arizona in Week 18, they defeat Tucson, and Bay Area defeats San Diego, and San Antonio defeats Arizona. Again, it's putting that into the position of Vegas finishing 11-5, the other teams finishing 10-6, and I believe in that scenario, when they defeat Northern Arizona, they might drop to 9-7. Even if they drop to 10-6, something like that might happen. I didn't put that scenario in here because it doesn't necessarily matter in that regard. For Northern Arizona, they can clinch a playoff berth if in Week 18 Northern Arizona defeats Vegas and Northern Arizona defeats Duke City. So again, you win your final 2 games, you get in, you go 11-5. Again, what we just saw with Arizona and San Diego, it's muddy, okay? Or Northern Arizona defeats Duke City and Week 19 San Antonio defeats Arizona, or Tucson defeats Vegas. So you see what I'm saying here? Like, you can kind of afford a loss. That's the reason why this Vegas Northern Arizona game is so important this weekend. It should be the game of the year when it comes to the playoff positioning. Not game of the year as in like this was a good game, but one of these teams is going to be that much closer. The other team is going to be fighting for their playoff life in the final week of the season. So Northern Arizona can clinch a number 2 seed if Northern Arizona defeats Vegas, Northern Arizona defeats Duke City in Week 19, and Bay Area defeats San Diego, and San Antonio defeats Arizona. So again, it's the same thing to clinch the 2 seed as Vegas. You just beat Vegas in Week 18. It's vice versa for Vegas. You beat Northern Arizona in Week 18. You still need things to break your way. You still need to win your final game in Week 19, and you need help from Bay Area and San Antonio to both pull off their victories as well. So with that, you see how muddy this can be. That's the reason I kind of wanted to lump this all together, because as of right now, as I said earlier, the East kind of way more clear than this. Like I said, Quad City wins against Tulsa this weekend. Playoff picture set. You know who your 4 teams are. It all kind of hinges on that Massachusetts-Tulsa game and the Quad City and Jacksonville game in Week 19. Other than that, okay, cool. You kind of know who your teams are going to be in that regard. This one, your 5th seed can still be the number 2 seed. That's how crazy that these scenarios can get. And your 4 seed can be the 2 seed. Your 3 seed can be the 2 seed. Your 2 seed could be the 2 seed, and they can drop as far as number 4. San Diego can be the 4th seed. Arizona can be left out of the playoffs if they lose to San Antonio. Even if they win against San Antonio, it might, I don't know if there's a scenario that keeps them out. So I think it's a win and you're in. But for Vegas and Northern Arizona, that's why this game is so important on Saturday. That's the reason why I'm going to be watching that start to finish. That might be the only game I watch. I don't know. But with that being said, it's, again, kind of a very muddy picture. I know I keep saying that, and I just want to keep emphasizing it. That's how like convoluted that these playoff scenarios are, that it just takes one team winning or losing, and you can send all of this into a tailspin. You know, there's a little more clarity with, you know, Green Bay and Frisco, because Green Bay has to win their final 2 games. You still need a lot of help to even get the 2 seed if you're Northern Arizona. If you can even get into the playoffs, you need to win against Vegas. Vice versa for the Nighthawks. So you can see where we're coming from. So let's go wrap this up really quick. We'll get out of here. All right, so just wrapping up really quick. Shouldn't take too long. I didn't put all the playoff clinching scenarios and stuff for the West. I know there's probably some stuff I got wrong. I'm not perfect. I get it. However, like I said, the entire video, it's messy. Even after week 18, it's going to be messy. It's going to come down to the final week of the season, which is why I wanted to kind of preview it a little bit here with the scenarios. If you're one of the teams that's been eliminated, like a San Antonio, you can still cause havoc. If you're Jacksonville, you can still cause havoc. If you're Sioux Falls or Iowa, you can still cause havoc. It's Duke City, Tucson, you can still cause havoc. Every team is still kind of a player in these playoff scenarios, even if you aren't in the playoffs. Any given Sunday, Saturday, any given day in the indoor football league, something crazy can happen. Am I expecting it to be in this next couple of weeks? Yes, there might be an upset that throws this entire thing completely off. I'm excited to see it. So with that, I'm going to sign off here. That's just a quick little preview of your week 18, week 19, playoffs and stuff. We won't know the full scope of everything until these games are played. We'll have the preview and all of that stuff out later in the week. Until then, signing off here, guys. Appreciate you. Love you. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. Until then, see ya.